welcome back to Radiant Farmstead. If you don't know me, my name is Ashlee, and my husband Nick and I run a small urban homestead and business out of Southwest Oklahoma. If you have been with us, welcome back, and if not, then welcome for the first time. This will let you get to know our family a little bit more, this video. Today we are going to kind of do a walkthrough of our 2023 season. It was quite a doozy, but hopefully you guys can get to know us a little bit better and kind of see what we've been doing. So just in case you can hear things in the background, my entire family's here today. You can hear the dogs running around. The baby is sitting in the swing. My daughter is actually helping me film. We'll say hi to her in a second. But we do real life here. So if you hear any noises, you hear my son playing Fortnite in the background, my dog drop her bone on her hardwood floors, just know that we're real life. So this video is going to kind of explain where have we been. I'm sure, and I know a lot of you guys have been having questions. I've gotten a lot of sweet messages and comments asking where we have been basically the majority of last year. So let's just dive right in and I can explain what's been going on in our business and in our family for the past year. Like I said, for those of you who have followed us for a while, you know that we took a break almost the entire year in 2023. It was an absolutely crazy year, so I figured I would just go kind of month to month and explain where we've been and why things have been like they have. So let's start in January. In January, we started off the year a little bit heavy. I got a phone call from my mom on the 4th, I believe, of January, letting us know that she had been to the doctor and had been having some weird symptoms and that they found a growing brain tumor in her brain. I told you it was a doozy last year. So some of this stuff is going to be kind of heavy, but I want to be honest with you guys with what's been going on. So they found a brain tumor in her brain. She's in her upper 60s, and she wasn't doing too well. It was a really hard time for our family. We're extremely close to my parents, and I was obviously very, very worried about them coming off the holidays. It was just a lot of emotion for everybody involved, and we were just concerned about her health and how that would affect her life in the future, because they said they needed to do brain surgery to attempt to remove it, which is a scary endeavor. Shortly after, like about a week and a half after this, she was going to the was it radiologist and oncologist to try to figure out if this was cancerous or if it was something that was benign but could be removed hopefully easily. My dad started having some strange symptoms and went to the doctor, and they told him that he most likely had cancer in his spleen. Like I said, this was a week and a half after we found out my mom had a brain tumor that she didn't know about for years. And it just absolutely crushed our family. We had no idea how aggressive the cancer was. We had no idea what the treatment was going to be. And with my mom talking about brain surgery, my dad was going to need surgery as well. We just didn't know what that looked like. They live 2 hours away from us, and it was a really scary time. I'm an only child, and so really the only person who can take care of them if they get sick at the same time is me. So trying to figure out how all of that worked and put those pieces together while attempting to protect my children and, you know, just figure out all the moving pieces was very, very difficult. This was all before the end of January. So January came and went. February started, and really nothing big happened. I started to pull away from helping at our church. We all serve at our church. My family continued to serve. I kind of backed off, knowing that I would be needed up where my parents live probably soon, once they figured out everything that they were going to need to do as far as surgeries and treatment and a possible chemotherapy and like these kind of things. At the end of February, we got some incredible news that what they thought was a pretty aggressive form of cancer for my dad, they were actually mistaken. So he didn't actually have cancer, but he did have some pretty severe health conditions that were limiting his ability to just function day to day. So he started getting treatments for those, but it wasn't nearly as intense as we thought it was going to be, which ended up being a huge blessing. But we still had the impending surgery for my mom to remove her brain tumor. And during the month of February, we found out it was a lot more aggressive and a lot bigger than we ever thought it could be. March came, and in March was a really big month for us. So beginning of March, my kids and I, my husband had to stay and work, but my kids and I had a big trip with my sister and my two nephews. We went to visit our family in Utah. For those of you who don't know, oh, the cookies are ready. For those of you who don't know, I am adopted, and so I have my family, so my mom and my dad, whom adopted me, they are the ones who were struggling with health problems. But my biological family, my birth mother, we're very close to her, and my biological sister actually lives in town with me. So we took her and my nephews to go visit our biological mother, and it's a little bit confusing, but we went to visit family in Utah. They own a motel there, the Atomic Blue Motor Inn. You can look them up. They are all over social media. It's really great. So if you're ever going through the Four Corners area through Utah, definitely stop by and give them a shout out. They would love that. But we went to Utah and had a really, really great time. Well, most everybody had a great time. I got the worst case of bronchitis that I could get. It was like an altitude bronchitis due to it being 7,000 feet above where we live here in Oklahoma. And I couldn't breathe the whole time. I had to go to the ER twice. I had to have breathing treatments. I was absolutely miserable and sick as a dog the entire time. Enjoyed seeing family, but it was not a good time medically. I felt like I was gonna die most of the time, and it was pretty rough. So I was incredibly sick. We came back from our trip to Utah. We had a great time. I had as good a time as I could, being really, really sick with a lung problem. Came back home, and I started feeling funny. My mom's surgery was scheduled for like the end of March, the beginning of April. And so I was trying to get better and make sure that I was ready to be able to help her, since my dad was still in bad health as well, to be able to do whatever I could to help my family. But I started feeling weird, and decided that I needed to take another sort of test to see if I had a different medical condition. So we had a little surprise. Some of you know I have 3 older kids from previous relationship, and my husband and I have been married, or were married 2 years at the time. We're actually almost 3 years now in February. But we had tried for a baby for almost the entirety of those 2 years, knowing that we're both getting older and that was something that we wanted. And after 2 years of infertility and trying all sorts of things in order to conceive, we finally found out that the reason I was feeling so sick after I got back and after I'd healed from my bronchitis from my trip was that I was pregnant. So March finished up, went into April. My mom had her surgery. We found out that about a week before she had her surgery, she actually ended up having a stroke, which left her unable to use the entire right side of her body. So her dominant hand and her foot. She had trouble with speech. She had trouble with like cognitive ability after she was done with her surgery. The surgery itself went well. They did remove the tumor in its entirety, and it ended up being very, very good, but we didn't really know what would happen from there, if she would ever gain those abilities back, or if that was just how it was going to be from then on. My dad started some treatments to try to help the pain that was in his spleen and his intestines, and took to it very, very well. I spent a couple days with my mom during her recovery, but at the time, my dad was responding really well to some treatments to help with his pain, and he really wanted to take the majority of the responsibility for her recovery at the time. And it worked out really, really well. He still wasn't feeling great, but with us being so far away, and I was starting to get pretty sick with some morning sickness that hit me really hard. Once we found out I was pregnant, he didn't want to take me away from my family or from where I could be able to be healthy and thrive as well. That little bit of morning sickness that I started feeling at the beginning of April, very quickly over the next 2 weeks, turned into something that was very, very severe. As the end of April approached, I started getting incredibly sick. Not just normal morning sickness that left me, very tired and not energetic and sick for, a couple hours a day. This was an all-day ordeal that never let up. I was dizzy, I was sick, I could not keep any food down, and very little liquids as well. And we soon realized, my husband and I, that something was very, very wrong, and went to talk to my midwife. My original plan was to deliver at home via water birth if possible. So I had a midwife in the area who would deliver my child, and it was incredible working with her. She was absolutely wonderful and gave me so much personal attention. But we soon found out that this really intense morning sickness actually was a disease that can develop in pregnancy called hyperemesis gravidarum. This affects a lot of women, and a lot of women don't talk about it, but it had me essentially bedridden for the next 5 months. It was very, very intense, very bad, never let up, and I had to have some IV treatments and take an enormous amount of supplements and do certain things to make sure that I wasn't dehydrated and that I had enough nutrition in order to keep myself healthy. But really it spiked the beginning of May towards the middle of May. And really I was kind of out for the count. In the midst of all of this, my kids were going to school. My daughters went part of the year to an in-person school, like public school here in town, and my son went the entire year to a public school in town that was right down the street. My daughters went virtual part of the way through of the second semester due to some just issues with school, and so I had 2 kids who were schooling at home, one that was schooling there at the public school. My husband, around this time in May, early June, started a new job as a correctional officer at our local jail. And he started working overnights. So not only did I have kids at home that I was trying to make sure were schooling, I was so sick I couldn't even get out of bed most days, but my husband was working nights, and it was quite a time. At this point, I had completely stopped serving at church, just due to not even being able to go to church most times. My husband, he really backed off to try to help take care of me and the kids. And we struggled as a family. It was very, very hard to keep up with me being ill, with my parents being ill, with me being pregnant, with all of the doctor's appointments, just trying to function during the day. And so that was a really hard, May and June were very, very difficult for our family. Around this time, I also found out that my mother-in-law was having some symptoms as well. So on top of my mom and my dad being sick and recovering, I found out my mother-in-law had something wrong with her thyroid. So she also had to have surgery. And it was sometime around June or July. I can't remember exactly when, because I was completely out of it due to my illness, and really couldn't remember much of anything.